How good was that weekend of Six Nations action? I get if you're a Scotland fan, Ireland, Wales fan, then maybe not quite in the way it was for some of those other nations. But I think even if you're a part of that fan base, I would imagine that you could still appreciate the drama, the excitement, the storylines, all of that, and what makes this such a great championship. Every single year, it is able to deliver. It was unbelievable. So welcome back to the channel. My name's Alfie. If you haven't clicked on the video before, then welcome along. And Monday evening, following that round, I'm going to go through some of my thoughts on the championship as a whole and some of my thoughts on the individual teams. But remember, in the comment section, that's where you can have your say. Let me know, your nation, what's your view on them after this round of fixtures? Because as we always say, and it's so true, one of the great things about the Six Nations is how the narrative and context and the whole complexion of the championship can shift from week to week. And I think that's actually as true as ever after those upsets and after those games we saw. So let me know. Like the video as well, that just gives it a boost and hopefully spreads it to as many people on YouTube so we can keep growing the channel. And part of growing the channel is you hitting subscribe. So hopefully by the end of this video, I will have earned your subscription if I haven't already. But first up, was that one of the great Six Nations Saturdays? I'll be honest, I don't have a good enough memory to think back of all the Saturdays previously, and I don't have the patience to trawl through the records on Wikipedia to see some of the previous Saturdays we've had. It's a competition that always throws up great weekends, great results, great excitement. Were there many better than the Saturday we've just had? Maybe some of the Super Saturdays we've seen at the end of the competition. But anyway, you can let me know. I just thought I'd throw that one out at you at the start of the video. But I mentioned that it is a competition where the narrative changes every single week. And if you've watched any of the videos I've done this Six Nations throughout the championship, you'd have seen me speak about the fact that it's awesome, it's always great, but it felt like a year where Ireland were just so much better than everybody else that a lot of the narrative and a lot of the intrigue in terms of stories was coming in the teams below them, because the matches between all the other sides have been really, really close. We've seen a lot of tight games. The matches before this weekend involving Ireland had been blowouts. They've been beating teams comfortably. And then Twickenham happens. And that whole notion is just flipped on its head, and the whole look of this table looks entirely different, in particular with Italy winning as well. You look at England, you look at France, you look at Scotland, you look at Italy, and it is so bunched up in there. It's just brilliant. But it does bring me on to the table and the points, and we need to talk about bonus points, which got brought in however many years ago it was, and you can understand the reason for that in terms of rewarding attacking play for the try bonus point and keeping teams interested, I suppose, in pursuit of a try bonus point and then getting a losing bonus point if they keep it tight as well. The problem is, and it could come to a head this weekend, it's potentially throws up some farcical situations. So we could have the situation, I don't think this is going to happen by the way, where Ireland don't beat Scotland, but they pick up a bonus point to move on to 17 points. England beat France, but let's say they don't get a bonus point, so only get 4 points. So England will be on 16. So Ireland would win the Six Nations because they'd be on 17 points, England would be on 16, but Ireland would have lost 2 games and England would have won 4 and only lost 1. And it's the kind of situation that you think the organisers probably didn't think would happen, and I don't think it will happen, but to me it highlights that you just shouldn't have bonus points. In a Six Nations competition where you play 5 games, you play every other team in the competition, and it's all about the head-to-head and the rivalry, I just don't think we should be having bonus points. And they kind of saw this situation coming because they realised there was the potential for a team to do a Grand Slam, but if they haven't picked up any bonus points and another team that, say, had won 4 of their 5 games but had picked up a load of bonus points, it was possible that that team who had lost a game could end up finishing top. So they saw that coming, and it means if you win all your games, you get, I can't remember the extra points you get on top of it, but to make sure they finish top of the pile. As I say, I think Ireland will win this weekend, so I don't think it will necessarily be an issue, but the reason I'm mentioning it is because, again, it highlights I don't think there should be bonus points in the Six Nations. I expect that to be a talking point this week for reasons that they should maybe get rid of it. Anyone in the comments section want to put forward an argument for why bonus points is good? Maybe that is such a niche scenario, it's probably never going to happen. For me, if it could happen once, you can't have bonus points. And as I say, I don't think they necessarily add too much to the competition. It is just about the head-to-head record, who wins the most games, in my opinion. Let's get on to some of the different teams, though. And maybe because I'm talking about Ireland, let's start with Ireland. They might be a good place here. So, my biggest, I suppose it is a bit of a question. My biggest question really is, how big a disappointment was that defeat to Ireland? And one of the brilliant things about this team, both in terms of the squad and the coaches, is they're so level-headed. You always get the impression that they are so in the here and now. They block out any sort of outside noise and narrative. And that was what Andy Farrell, in his post-match press conference, was saying in terms of the back-to-back Grand Slams, that's no longer a possibility. And I understand it to a degree, but I just wonder how disappointed, privately, behind closed doors, whether they voice it amongst themselves or whether they just think about it internally, how big a disappointment it will be to miss out on that. Because it would have been historic, as everyone has spoken about. Never done before in the Six Nations era. What a feather in the cap of this team, who've got some brilliant occasions and achievements already. If we want to talk about the Grand Slam last year, if we want to talk about a series victory away in New Zealand, they've had some great times already. But I just wonder privately how big a missed opportunity they will view this, because as good as England were on the weekend, you look at this Six Nations and you felt like Ireland were in a great place to be able to do that. And look, as I've said already, I think they'll probably go on and win the championship. I think they've got as exciting a summer tour against South Africa coming up as I can remember, in terms of the world champions against a team that many people still view as the best team in the world. South African fans, understandably, I think, take umbrage with that notion, but that is the conversation that is out there. They've got loads more still to play for going forward. I'm not suggesting it is going to be much. I don't think there'll be any hangover, really, from missing back-to-back Grand Slams, but I just wonder how much of a disappointment that ultimately is. Ireland fans, maybe you can let me know. Let's get on to England, though, because it was a result and a performance that I think the team and the fans needed, and in particular, the fans deserved. And I've mentioned it already, being at Twickenham, the moment that drop goal went over, it was just awesome. Like, it's why any of us love sport, not just love rugby, but you love sport for those moments, that just explosion of emotion at the end, a game that could have gone either way, two teams going back and forth. It was brilliant. And I suppose the thing for England, it changes the whole complexion of their championship. As I've mentioned already in terms of the results this weekend, they've got 3 wins in the Six Nations for the first time in 4 years. They have beaten a team, as I say, that a lot of people consider to be the best team in the world, and they've beaten them with a different approach in terms of their attacking intent and in terms of that new blitz defence. And it is the biggest signal so far of what Steve Borthwick is doing, of where he's trying to take this England team, that it could ultimately be successful on a more consistent basis than the fans have seen over the last 4 years. And I think that's really exciting for the fan base and for the team. And also now, let's not lose sight of the fact, massive opportunity going away to France. I'll get onto the French in a minute, but they still haven't looked particularly convincing, even off the back of 45 points put on Wales in Cardiff. They've been struggling this Six Nations. What an opportunity to go there and beat them away from home and finish a Six Nations with 4 wins, having beaten Ireland and France. If you had told England fans that was going to be the case at the end of the tournament, brilliant. I could go into more detail about them as well. I think the way in which they're using their wingers is sensational. For me, that's one of the biggest signs of how this team is playing differently, of how Borthwick and the game plan is development. It wasn't that long ago we were talking about Henry Arundel in a World Cup not getting the ball to him or getting the ball passed to him once in a whole game. He was basically just there chasing kicks. You look at Emmanuel Faye-Waboso and the impact he's had. I thought he did brilliantly making his first start. You look at Tommy Freeman as well. Their impact on games, the involvement they're having, I think it's really exciting. Plus then you've got, I don't know, Jamie George doing a great job as captain. You've got Ollie Chesham, who continues, I think, to grow into looking like having the potential to be a top quality international second row. Ben Earl's brilliant. George Martin just comes in and bangs people. I think there's a lot of things off the back of that result for England fans to be excited about. And going to France, huge opportunity. On to Italy, the other victorious team on Saturday. The biggest compliment I can pay Italy in a way is back it up. Because Italy in previous Six Nations, when they won a game, everyone almost just went, great. Italy have won a game, fantastic. But there wasn't necessarily the expectation for them to back it up. But I think we can reasonably have that expectation now. They should have beaten France already in this Six Nations. They go to Wales, who are staring down the barrel of 5 defeats. What an opportunity for them. And it's not just that, it's Benetton's performances in the URC, it's the performances of the under-20s, and it's the quality of players in that team, whether it's Menoncello in the centres, who I think is brilliant, some of the players they have across that backline, but in the forward pack as well, who are gaining more and more experience. All of a sudden, you look at that Italy team, and it doesn't seem ridiculous to think they can be more consistent in the Six Nations going forward, and that for me starts this weekend. Back it up. They'll probably be favourites for that game. I don't know if the bookies will have them favourites, but I think a lot of the expectation will be that Italy win that game. And Welsh fans won't think so, but for the competition as a whole and for Italian rugby, it would be awesome if they were able to do that. So can they back it up? I hope so. On to Scotland. Scotland are an enigma, an absolute enigma, because they have to look at this competition and this year's competition as a huge missed opportunity. I mean, all right, they should have beaten France. They were unlucky with the call at the end. You can't help that. But to then lose control of the game in the way they did against Italy will just be so frustrating. In the same way they lost control of the game in the second half against Wales, they were able to win that game. In the same way, they had a pretty poor opening 20 minutes against England. They ended up winning that game as well. But I feel like the real fear on the back of this result for Scotland is almost the opposite to what I speak about with Italy. With Italy, it's like, this is exciting. This team can kick on. I think the fear with Scotland is now, for 4 or 5 years, they've been in this position and they've never been able to kick on. They've never got to the final weekend of the Six Nations being able to win the title. And I think they can technically, can't they, this year, but it would require them to win with a bonus point plus overturn like a 76-point difference. It's just not going to happen. But it's coulda, shoulda, woulda for Scotland. And actually, the thing is, and one thing we should learn from the weekend we've just seen with upsets, this Scotland team is still good enough to beat Ireland. I don't think they will, but they are good enough. It could happen. They've had notable scalps under Gregor Townsend. But they could have been competing for a title, but they let it slip. It's could have, should have, would have. And is the time frame for this set of players in this Scotland team starting to pass it by? Maybe not quite yet, but I think those are the fears within Scottish rugby, because in the way the Italians have a good under-20s team and some things to be excited about, with Scotland it's the opposite of that. Their under-20s have not been good for a while. You wonder whether the opportunity is passing them by. I think that is the fear for Scotland. I'll round off the video. I'll be honest, I don't have as many thoughts on France and Wales. I probably need to watch the game back and give it some more thought. My big question for you with the French, how impressed were you with them against Wales? Because my takeaway from the game, which I feel isn't necessarily in tune with a lot of other people's, was we saw some good stuff. We know France are still good. They dominated the game overall. They put 45 points on Wales, but I still haven't been that convinced by them. Their defence look leaky. They look a little bit aimless still, I think, in terms of their attacking shape and the general shape of that team. And for me, the jury is still out on them. Now, they could still beat England this weekend, because I think you look at that team, you look at the power in that team. On their day, I think they can trouble anyone. But I'm just still not convinced by them. So that's my main question to you with the French, is where are you on them in this Six Nations, where they lost to Ireland, should have probably lost to Scotland, should have lost to Italy. I don't know. Where are you with them? And with Wales, they're a young team. I mean, Wales, similar. I need to think more on them and watch the game back, but I probably stick with my comments in the review video I did of that French game. They're a young team. I think Warren Gatland will come good with them, but they're a long way off at the moment. They're a long, long way off. They look tactically naive at times, I think. I've spoken about their kicking game. I think that at times has been aimless and has just given a platform to the opposition to put pressure on them. and it is a long road. I think they will get better. I think you look at their summer tour to Australia, and that, for me, will be fascinating, partly because of where the Wallabies are, who've dropped to 10th in the world rankings, but with Joe Schmidt coming in. But that potentially could be a really good series, actually, between two quite evenly matched sides. And they'll have, I think Liam Williams will be back available for that, Thomas Francis, Jack Morgan returning from injury. They'll have some experience and quality coming back into the team. I think Wales will come good, but maybe it's going to take a while. So those are my general thoughts. As I said at the top of the video, comment down below. Let me know what you made of it. Everything I've gone through, anything I haven't touched upon, comment down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and I'll see you in the next one.